Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order, regular meeting of March 21st, 2023. As we gather today, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of this committee and our community that we are meeting in the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. And we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. And please join with me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. A couple points in regards to my address. Some activities we've had going. Council was invited to our new fire hall on March the 14th for a tour and the meeting. Thank you, Bob. I think it was very educational to everyone and it went very well. Our first full day of finance meeting was yesterday, and I want to thank the 3 returning counselors for their guidance and their leadership through that. Thank you to Tammy, Sue, and Charlene for all the work that you guys put into this point. And a special thank you to the department heads for showing us and giving us their needs and their wishes. And we'll see what we can do. Does any member of council have any pecuniary or financial interest to declare? I was waiting for you. So we put Ted's name in, and Ted will declare it at the appropriate time. And then we have a delegation tonight. Here's Kathy. Welcome. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. This has been a bit of time coming. I really wanted to come and sort of give you an overview as the new council of the work that's been happening in the Pathways Park. And I know that Chris has been keeping you up to date as well, but I thought you might take a bit of an outside perspective. And although there's a large kind of group, I think there's about 11 different individuals and organizations that have been part of planning for the park so far. I'm speaking only for myself tonight. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. So I have 4 goals I want to hopefully meet with you tonight. And as I walk you through this presentation, a little bit of background on the origins of the park, a little bit of a general summary of funding and corresponding investments to date, commitments to date for 2023. And then the last thing I want to touch on is an asset management perspective on the future development of the barn. And I'll tell you a little bit more about why I'm putting that on the table with you tonight. I'm hoping to see as many faces as possible at the community consultation, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the Lions Hall. There will be a large timeline of everything that's happened with the park since it first got started. So I won't sort of take you through the steps there. But we started when the group coalesced around the park, we developed an intention and a guiding statement. And that's really what we focused on since the get-go. And it's here, I'll just say it out loud. The Keeloo Pathways Park supports the mental and physical well-being of Keeloo and area residents by fostering the intrinsic and reciprocal relationship between people and the natural world. Well, what does that really mean if you try and put it in plain words? Means that we committed from the outside to have a very gentle ecological footprint on the park. So this is not a park development where you're going to see like all kinds of structures or lots of metal or anything like that. And we're also focusing on sustainability. And a big part of that is because certainly I've gone out to probably 8 or 9 other parks and talked to them about what makes the difference in terms of sustainability. We've committed to using locally sourced materials where practicable. We have committed to multilingual signage. And the reason we've done that is because Keeloo is exceptionally good at recognizing its traditional settler heritage, its Irish roots, Polish roots, German roots. And what we wanted the park to be able to do is to gently sort of raise awareness about the indigenous reality that the land was basically their land. And so the signage in the park will be in Anishinaabe, English and French, and it won't be jarring. And by that, we don't want any, from the beginning, we don't want any kind of loud signs. It's got to be in respect of the quietness of the park. So how did the park come to be? Well, it began with the idea of a reading trail that was to sustain the goals of the book fest once the pandemic had been announced. As you know, Phil and I have been working with the Friends of the Library and running the Killeen Kids Book Fest. And it had been really successful. We had over 18 authors come in, and the kids were really excited about it, as were the teachers and the principals. But we knew as soon as the pandemic was announced that the whole idea of in-person author visits was going to be off the table. And so we had to begin to think about how could we keep it alive, keep the spirit of the book fest alive, which is supporting literacy, bringing kids, grandkids together, you know, being inspired by authors. And what we came up with through our research would be the idea of a permanent reading trail. And that's a trail where kids, parents, everyone is encouraged to walk through a part of the forest on a path and read pages of a book. And then beneath the pages of the book, there are activities and suggestions for kids to do different things. And then it allows them to sort of see the arc of the storyline while being outside in nature. Then, you know, sometimes bad things end up having good outcomes. What we did is, when the group came together, is we really did take aggressive advantage of the pandemic-driven grant opportunities that started to become available shortly after the pandemic was declared. And a lot of them, of course, focused on how do you support people to gather in safe spaces, which are more typically outdoor spaces. And the whole theme of community resilience was one that all the governments were very supportive of. Another thing we committed to at the outset, that we would recognize the legacy of Hawk Farm, because that's really important. Many people still know that spot as Hawk Farm. And the stewardship of the Killeen Heritage and Ecology Society, which took care of that and ran programs and activities on it for many, many years. Every initiative that you feel, I'll talk about, that's active in the park, is, with the exception of the reading trail, which is, you know, an idea that the Killeen Kids Book Fest came to council with and was supported. But as a result of community input from our first survey that we had out at the beginning of this, people really wanted to see infrastructure to support people gathering. This is the feedback we got. They wanted to see places for kids to explore the natural world. They wanted inclusivity and access. They wanted opportunities to learn about the natural world. They wanted to celebrate art. And many of the people that answered the survey really said, you know, this park can be a critical economic development asset for the township. It needs to be thought about in that context as well. So if you're on page 2 of my presentation, I can just quickly run through the amount of support that we received, which is right now over $200,000 in grants, including grants that the CRC has gotten for its greenhouse and orchard in the park. And all of the grant applications we put through, we thought about sustainability. So for example, on the reading trail, at first we didn't think that we would be funded to actually do the construction of the reading stations. So one of the things we got successful support from was to look at a sponsorship strategy, look at a marketing plan, get your social media up, start to get people engaged around the park who would ultimately become sponsors, either of a reading station or a fitness station, and then, you know, begin to excite them about what that meant. And so at the bottom of this chart, following on through the next few pages, are highlights of what we've done with all of the grant money that we've received to date. an interesting little story, and I don't think I'm telling tales out of school, but you have something to throw at me if I am. When we went after our first grant, the Healthy Communities Initiative grant, we asked for $65,000 because we thought, well, you may as well, ask for everything, right? And they came back to us and they said, we think the park development process is looking like a really good process. We're really excited about it. Unfortunately, the demand is such that we can only give you 30,000. So what we did is we scaled back that original grant assessment and we kept resubmitting it. And wouldn't you know, the Commonwealth Insurance Leave Program, the Community Revitalization Grant, all ended up picking up pieces that we had not been able to get funded originally by that first grant. And I think they talk to each other too. Like the grant officers reviewing the proposal actually talk to each other. So we really felt blessed that the whole vision for the park must have been pretty clear from the outset, or else those kinds of domino effects of funding would not have occurred. So I'm not going to go through the listing here that you have in pages 2 and 3, but you get a sense of sort of what investments have been made to date. But what I do want to focus on briefly is that we do have some carryover things that haven't been done yet on the park, and those things have been funded, but they haven't yet been activated, and that will happen in 2023. And the reason for that, of course, is weather, construction, all manner of different things, and you people know more about that than I do. We wanted to have a second broader community consultation. The first consultation happened online and via hard copy, and we did get some feedback from some members of the community that they didn't feel as engaged and involved in the park development process as they would have liked to have been, taking into consideration that we were in the middle of a pandemic. So I'm very, very happy that the Community Resource Center is supporting a second broader community consultation. That's the one that's happening tomorrow from 4 to 7 at the Lions Hall. And it's going to be professionally facilitated. And our dream for that is, again, with a sustainability focus, we hope to engage the people that come to that consultation and to encourage them and excite them to become actively involved in any future work in the park. And so what we're hoping to develop are teams of volunteers that will continue to undertake maintenance and other activities in the park so that the footprint remains, grounded and supported by community as much as it is a township asset, which it is. We're going to, the reading stations were tested over the winter months. We put in, we had a little contest with our local kids who dreamed amazing things for what they wanted to see in the park, including disco balls and underground pools. So we celebrated that, but all the while kind of saying, this is going to have a light ecological footprint. And I don't think a dance platform or an underground pool really meets the needs, but those are out on the path now. And I really, if you haven't had a chance to go out and walk the path, I really encourage you to take a look, because the imaginations are wonderful, and the thoughtfulness that so many of the kids put in to thinking about what they would like to see in the park. And the other thing that it gave us an amazing opportunity to pilot test those installations, which we purchased each reading station, to make sure they get through the winter okay. And so that when we do go to our official opening in the spring, we're putting in books, that we know that the setup makes sense, things are waterproof, the backings that we've chosen will support what we want to do. Of course, there's going to be an accessible washroom in the park, and we're really thrilled about that. That was kind of number one, or close to the top of the initial survey list. People said, thinking about nothing, especially for people like me, as old folks. And then if you do go to the park, you'll see that one of the kids developed and painted this massive, quite beautiful outdoor washroom, and told the story of, if you're in the middle of the park and you suddenly have to go, it's really sad if you have to leave the park to go and then come back. And so that's why we need this And it has hand sanitizers and it's solar powered. So what can I say? I'm not quite sure ours will be quite that fancy. We're working with the library and the community resource center to bring some children's programming events into the outdoor space of the park. And the CRC Toy Bus team in particular is really excited to be able to bring some of their programming outside. The official opening of the reading trail will probably happen in May. And the other kind of thing that's interesting, and I'm excited about the reading trail, so you'll have to just tell me to shut up when I go overboard. The reading trail is permanent. It's the only permanent reading trail in all of Brantford County. Other reading trails are typically called story walks, and they're basically laminated posters with wire that are stuck into the ground wherever you want the story walk to happen. And we decided, we meaning the larger group, decided from the outset that we should invest in something more permanent. But Nicole has managed to get funding for a story walk as well. So there will be a time in the park this summer where you'll have the permanent story walk or the reading trail, and then you'll have one of those more temporary story walks with another picture book on it. So public can get a chance to kind of look at the difference between them. And my hope is that the appreciation will grow for the fact that, we here, I think the closest permanent reading trail to us is Sutter. So I think that's something that we can be very, very proud about. As I said at the consultation tomorrow, we really want to think about building our volunteer base, and that will end up doing two things. We will hopefully develop a Friends of Killaloe Pathways Park, which would be a non-governmental organization that would bring together all of the partners external to the township. NGOs are wonderful in the sense that if they have charitable status, they often can attract grants. The township, townships can attract. And I've been working with the Friends of Bonshare Parks for the last year, looking at their model, and I think we'll be in a good position to move forward with that quickly. The other thing we'll want to do coming out of the consultation is begin the development of a strategic plan for the park. And in that respect, that will be linked to your strategic plan and to your asset management plans. The last piece I want to chat about briefly is the barn. The barn is, sort of been sort of the big end point of the green when we were first getting together and talking about the development of the park, being able to restore the barn. And I was thrilled because it means something to me. It probably doesn't mean something to many other people, but to know that the township in your 20 to 21, 20 to 26 strategic plan included the development of Killaloe Pathways Park as an ongoing and strategic action in support of the promotion and management of township economic development. So it very much aligns with what we heard from the community, which is that they could see big benefits potentially. So were the barn to be restored, and that's a big word, it would of course become another additional non-core asset for the township and be recognized within your asset management plan. But unique to the barn, I would think, is the possibility that it could generate revenue for the township if it could be renovated. So if you look at your asset management commitments, you want to minimize your life cycle costs. You want to manage your associated risks, and you want to maximize your asset value for ratepayers. So with those things in mind, Phil and I did research through the fall on other barn restorations, particularly in the province of Ontario, because we thought that made more sense for comparative purposes. I'm now a member of something called the Ontario Barn Restoration Network. I know it sounds very exciting, but it's been enormously helpful because it networks me into all kinds of other people that have been either actively involved in a barn restoration, planning a barn restoration, and it's a time to exchange best practices and look at different ways of doing things. The other group I'm in touch with is a group called Just Food Ottawa, which is a community rural and urban food and farming initiative. And as part of their activity, they have over the last couple of years fully renovated the barn on their property and are now renting it out for weddings, other events. And I hope to go with a small group of folks to actually visit them in the spring and find out a little bit more about how they did that. I think from what I could see on their website, they got funding in excess of $500,000 to do that renovation. So I remain hopeful that that's something potentially that we could be looking at. But without exception, as you've learned from what happened with the museum house, the first step is a structural review of the barn, because we don't even know if it's viable for renovation at this point. You know, and I've looked into possible grant opportunities, and all the grant opportunities I've seen so far, we require that we go into them with having completed an engineering structural assessment that gives the grant funder reassurance that they're not spending money on something that's not viable. One of our volunteers last winter, David Becker, he got one of your volunteer awards, for which he was very grateful, is an artist, and he also was a planner, an architectural planner in Ottawa, and had worked on a barn restoration project with an engineering firm in Ottawa. And what I wanted to be able to do tonight, because I know that you're in budget deliberations, and I know it's miserable and difficult and likely to get worse before it ever gets better. It's next bureaucrat, that's typically the case. They were more than welcome to give us an initial assessment on what a structural review would cost. I'm not asking for that. I'm just simply saying to you that I think a $10,000 investment could leverage more than $500,000 if the barn is determined to be able to be renovated. But everything counts on getting that initial engineering work done. They've provided me with an estimate. There's absolutely no commitment anywhere on it, but I just wanted to come to you with more than just a ballpark sense of what that would look like in terms of funding. And I guess the timing is pretty good, given that I know you're now in budget deliberations. So I really think that the level of grantor interest in supporting the development of the park, more than $200,000 in grant money so far, really augurs well for the continued attraction of funding to support our community's population health and well-being in the future. And to me, the outstanding big ticket item now is the barn. So thank you. That's my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Why don't we go around? Harold, do you have any questions? Bill?
What are you serving for dinner at the consultation?
This finding, but it makes a good chili, so there's chili tomorrow. So if you don't want to come to the consultation to think about whole Cowboys Market, come for Bill's chili.
Is there garlic bread? Is there garlic bread?
No, there's bread. No, all
The best thing you left in. Caesar salad? I don't have anything.
Maureen,
Yeah, I have no questions, but hats off for all your hard work. Yeah.
Brian,
Yeah, I do have a question. So the $10,000, is that's what amount you're looking for from the council to what? To your.
I'm not necessarily looking for it. I'm just putting it in the window as a consideration, because our community group will not be able to go further in terms of seeking more grant funding until that particular piece is in place. If the structural review is done, and it's your asset, I mean, it's sitting on your property, so there are liability issues and everything else. If it turns out that that asset is not able to be renovated, then the sooner that we would know that, the better, because then there are outstanding considerations. People have been wandering around in the bottom of that barn for years, and I don't think that there's ever been a guarantee that it is a safe and secure location. So I'm not saying that I'm asking for it. I'm just asking council, with the millions of other dollars of other commitments, to consider that this kind of investment could allow us, as your community partners in the development of the park, to go after some aggressive funding.
Okay, so let me ask that a different way. Who was the $10,000?
Well, the $10,000 is just an estimate, it's a placeholder right now. If, you know, if the township were to decide that they wanted to take that on, it would go through a bidding process and, you know, you go out to structural engineers. And the only reason I reached out to this particular organization is because they have a particular track record in barn restorations, and because they were more than willing to, they were excited about this project and were willing to put their on the ground.
Because when I hear, I'm not a banker by any means, but when I hear if I invest 10,000 and we make $500,000, I'm interested.
I just, you know, I'm just putting it out there because you put 200,000 without any increase. So just think what $10,000 could do, and it's all around the barn. Like if the barn is not able to be renovated, then I think the sooner we put that to bed, the better. And then we can continue to develop the park, you know, around other areas. But that barn is absolutely spectacular. And if it all, you know, if anything deserves to become a beautiful, you know, community space, where all kinds of pop-up art exhibits could go in, you could rent it out for you know, theater. There's so many possibilities. So.
Thank you. And also, like Maureen said, thank you very much for all the work you've put in so far and continue to put into this project. Appreciate it.
You know, it's as exciting as it was when it first started.
No, I think that I see a fee structure just totally around $8,000, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only reason I got it to 10 is because it does not include taxes and it does not include scaffolding, rental or a lift. You'll see that in the, so I'm just ballparking at 10. I'd rather over than underestimate. And like I said, this has no value. It's not going anywhere. It's simply to provide members of council with a bit of a more evidence-based assessment of what we think the structural review would cost. And so far in all of the grants that I've looked at, they do not fund structural reviews. You go into the renovation process with the presentation of the fact that this is a structure that can in fact be renovated. But we're not going to stop looking.
Good.
Yeah, I'd just like to say congratulations and thank you as well. And the past council, we did discuss the ban absolutely a bit. And I agree with you, it's got to be looked at sooner than later. Just like anything else, the longer it sits, the worse conditions going to get. So hopefully we can figure something out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to applaud you.
Oh, thank
This
you.
is just a labor of love, and
It is under the law.
your heart's in it. And Chris, I'm sure you're right there on the other side of her. So, and it's amazing what's been done to this point. Just a question.
Sure.
How old is the building? Would it qualify for,
15 years old,
sorry,
150.
would it qualify for a heritage?
Well, that's, it might, but the heritage pot is, like, there's not a lot of activity happening out there, but certainly I will do some investigation on that.
Because they're very willing, from what I've heard, they're very willing to help.
Yeah.
Restore almost anything.
Yeah.
And if you qualify for the age, which I'm sure over 100 years is.
That, yeah. It wasn't on the radar, you know, in terms of my discussions with the line restoration people, and they are like, you know, they are always have all their tentacles out looking for possible grant opportunities because they're in the same situation that we're in with a major asset. And the need to source funding to renovate it outside of basic operations.
Again, thank you. And hopefully all of council will be there tomorrow night to show support. And I think the topper was when we found out Bill was making chili.
Yeah, I'm sorry I can't guarantee the garlic bread, but Just for David.
Yeah.
Okay, David, I'll have some guidance for you.
Awesome.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mind if I steal the water on the way out? Or do I have to leave it behind me? I didn't drink it. I'll just go up and sit on the steps. No,
Just don't drink and drive.
no, I won't do that.
Motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting.
Moved by Maureen McMillan, second by Bill Smith, motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on March 7th, 2023, open and closed sessions.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Carried. Wait till do all.
Yeah, we-
Motion to approve the minutes of the committee meeting minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes of Finance Committee meeting of February 13th, 2023 and March 8th, 2023, open sessions.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Carried. We're done that. Now go to the committees.
No, reports, fire chief.
We're
Two
both,
meetings
yeah,
or
we're
reports?
both.
Yeah.
Your turn, Bob.
All right. Hey, fire operations, March 7th, we got a call for a vehicle on fire. It was an OPP vehicle, it wasn't a fire, but it was more like maybe leaking fluid on a stock pipe or something, it was out by the time we were lines on the scene. Yesterday, I wasn't able to join you for lunch because I had a follow-up, it was a direct call from myself. For odor eliminating their residents on North Street, so we called the crew in to track that down to correct the situation. Online activities, weekly truck checks, monthly equipment checks, donning and docking with SCBA, we have that going virtually year round. Recent events, February 27th, we were here with I was there with the Protection and Emergency Management Committee meeting, the first one I think that took place. February 28th, the OFML Chiefs Town Hall, I was part of that. March 1st, Renfrew County Fire Chiefs meeting in Pembroke. March 7th, the meeting I had with Thomas Schmidt, reissued the Friendship Club. March 14th, we had the KHR monthly meeting. And as you indicated earlier, it was attended by council. I hope it was interesting for you. Everyone was there on council except Brian, and he's been there before. One thing I did mention there was our dredging operation plan for the Round Lake Fire Hall Pond. I had mentioned that we did get the okey dokey not needing a permit from forestry. And I said we hadn't yet received anything from Environment Canada or Environment Ontario, sorry, but since then we did get a note and they do not require a permit either. So we're basically wide open from doing it just as an event like that. Excuse me, upcoming events, we got a few meetings planned for the fire department. Fire prevention, we're still running newspaper ads, we run one every month. Training undertaken February 21st with ground ladders, theory and practical. Scheduled training tonight at March 21st, fire hoses and streams, both theory and practical. Next week we have the forestry basic training for wildland fire operations. That's the theory. And April 4th, we actually do the practical to that because the snow may or may not be around and we'll be having a very dry spring from that perspective. The EMC side, March 9th, we had a Pembroke District Spring a freshet. This was a pre-freshet meeting to explain how we're going to operate and who's allowed to attend and that kind of thing. The 16th, we had the actual freshet number 1 for the season. It's scheduled weekly right now until May 18th. Until it's no longer required, but we could go as like 1 year, we're basically daily. But at this particular point, the current status for everyone is basically no concerns. We're still waiting comments on the preliminary review of KHR's 2022 emergency management submission, let alone the final assessment. So this changeover to a Treasury board has kind of really slowed down operations from that perspective. Now, this next part that I have in here is actually a cut and paste from the memo I received, and I understand all you counselors have received this. This is the SEOW training. I always love that kind of it's SEOW, kind of a cross between a cat and a pig, SEOW. But anyway, we'll go with that one, shall we? What I need to know is who's attending, if anyone, and which session, daytime or evening.
It's over, March 14th. It says March 14th, but.
Where's it say March 14th?
March 24th,
3 days.
March 24th.
Oh, I'm looking down here. Senior elected officials, emergency management, March 14th. 2023.
That's the date,
That's
that's
the
the
date
date
of
it
the
was sent.
So
It didn't meet them.
now we're inviting EMCs so we can be interlocutors on that, and I can go to one or both sections if required, not a problem.
I won't be attending, I'm not.
Bob, do you think it's worth your time to be there for that?
For myself?
Mhm.
No.
Okay.
It's to answer questions for you as per the presentations coming down.
Okay. Does anyone have an interest of attending that?
Okay, I'll get
Okay.
back. Any. Thank you. On part 2 here. Yesterday, at the finance committee, you asked me to prepare a report on fire truck replacement plan. I put that together for you to give you as an attachment. What I've indicated here is a fleet replacement. KHRFD has 7 apparatus in its fleet. The standard for truck replacement for frontline pumper is 25 years, as determined by the firefighters underwrite a survey. We discussed that yesterday. And after that point, it's no longer considered a frontline pumper. That doesn't mean you can't have other pumpers that go a lot longer than that, but you still need a frontline one. And I've given you an idea here. Currently, our department has 3 pumpers that would fit into this basic replacement schedule. And I set up a chart here. You've got the unit of the truck. You've got numbers 1 to 7, and if you flip through the page, it's 1 to 7. It represents the truck that I put under those particular numbers. So you'll see that 3 of our trucks out of 7 are current. Okay, so we have our big pumper tanker, 9644. Its replacement year is due 2040, so we've got a bit of time to worry about this one. 9722 is our tanker, and that's good till 2032. 9856 is good to 2028. So you can see the top 3. We've got some good space to worry about and get ready to upgrade as necessary. But again, unless they're a frontline pumper, they're not necessarily required, to be surplus at 25 years. Then we get into the next 3 in here. This is where we have some issues. 9637. This is the one that we have at Round Lake Center. The 1993, it's 25 years, was up in 2018. So you can see we've lost that time. This is about when I presented to council the first time on getting a plan on a roll. The next one is 9670. It's 1990. So it was past due in 2015. And then you got 9828 based on a 17-year schedule. It could have been looked at in 2014. Now, the number 7 truck at this particular point, as I mentioned, is surplus to need. Now we can decide what we're going to do, sell it as a viable truck or strip it for parts or scrap it or whatever, we can make that determination. But those three other trucks, if you look at it, the 2014, the rescue van, which is, what number have we got here? That's number 6. It's special in a couple of ways. Most people don't know that particular truck was actually purchased and built by the firefighters association. They're gonna hold an old fire truck. They're gonna hold an old box truck delivery. I think it was a bakery truck. And they put the cabinets installed from the outside to the inside. They did all the fabrication, painted it, the whole routine. Okay, what they really like about this truck, it's the only one that we have both inside usage. We got 6 cabinets inside, plus a couple of shelving units, plus seating for 4 in the back, and that's beyond the 2 in the cab. And you've got all the cabinets from the outside as well. What they're considering for this particular truck is to get a new chassis and relocate the cab and the box as we can. That would considerably reduce costs. I was trying to get some numbers from a couple of people since yesterday, but wasn't able to get any for consideration. But if we look at truck, let's see, 56, what's number 56 in here?
3.
So that is, number 3. Look at number 3. In 2011, it was actually ordered, the basics were here before I actually came here. But the basics for 2011 for this size of truck, which is a Ford 550, which is what we'd be looking for the other truck. The whole truck completed was about 111,000. You're probably going to pay close to that to a chassis these days, I would think, but it's better than outfitting an entire vehicle. If you look at that chart, you'll see the mileage that's on it. The only one with considerable mileage on it, of course, is that Ford 9828. And I know, Carl, you were noticing the springs on it. You know, when springs go up like this to hold your truck up, well, then our truck can go down the back. Okay, it's overloaded. I'm concerned from a safety perspective with the stuff that's in there. But it's basically the chassis that needs to be looked at for that particular truck. That one, if it's open, and if we're trying to look, we could possibly get a chassis this year. Then you've got the next two, that one would be for 2025. If we started looking for a first line pumper tanker now, then we might get something here 2025, 2026. The one in between, the trouble is, there's so much similarity in years that you end up kind of in a dual cohort here for truck replacement. So whether you replace 2 at once or really stretch out the life on one, only time will tell on that particular basis. So that's for consideration. The trucks themselves, if you're looking at pumper tankers, and we couldn't talk yesterday, 550, 650, that's what an expectation. Could go a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower. Who knows, there could be a surprise deal in the next, but as Councilor Brown mentioned yesterday, we just don't generally see them for pumper tankers. Now, the last one, number 7 on here, is the one that we want to, it's surplus to needs, and we'll see what we want to do with that. In the interim, this truck is parked up at the maintenance yard. We'd like to pull that down to our main fire hall in Killaloo. It was put up there under the assumption that it was giving reduced insurance rates to the people up in Wilno. But from what we're talking to people that are in the know, that this isn't reality. They don't treat that as a fire hall. So I'd like to get the truck moved down and return the bay over to Dean for roads.
I can remember at one point, was it not brought up to council to keep it there for a specific reason and council voted to leave it there? Would we need the same thing to reverse that?
We had one there, which we thought to bring down here and take that one up there, right, Bob?
We did that.
Yeah.
Okay, but the reason it was put up there was for the insurance.
Insurance for the people who will know.
But from here, the new firewall, the old fire up there is 3-4 minutes with the truck.
5 minutes, yeah.
And what's the purpose of using space up there to use for the most part?
Be honest, it shouldn't be up to council, that's
Right.
operational decision that should be made by the fire chief.
Okay.
That's, he's the one that.
That building isn't technically allowed to fire.
No, yeah. But like, council shouldn't be, to me, that's micromanaging, and we're telling the fire chief where. Put his equipment.
So do we know, okay, previous council, was that in place before? Like, did council make the decision to keep it there? Do we have to reverse that decision?
Yes,
No, we don't have to reverse. that.
no, but it was made by,
But the previous council told them. In my opinion, we were wrong in that.
Okay. Do we need anything from your side? So it's totally your decision.
sure,
Good to go?
whatever you want. Good boss.
But I just want the taxpayers of Wilmot to know and understand that. By having a truck there, it doesn't save them insurance. And it's not going to. Have anybody there any quicker, because. Most of the firefighters have to drive from here to their personal vehicle to get that truck, so. It's not gonna save any time, and they go out here to get their gear, then they go get the truck, so now they just go get their gear, get the truck, and be there quicker.
Quicker, actually quicker, right? Okay, you're okay with that?
From an operational perspective, we'll do that too. We get out shortly. That is all I have. Questions?
Anybody have any other questions? Right,
I have a question, so I'm sure you're, I was just looking at this, fire truck number 5, you know. Estimated replacement cost, you have found. How many 50,000?
If you're gonna replace that as another pumper or a pumper tanker, yes, if you're gonna buy or build a new one.
So,
But in that case, you might be able to get something in between. But you also don't necessarily have to get rid of those at 25 years. The problem with these now is they're already past their 25 years. They're in 30 and 33 years. And even to get another one, you're gonna take at least 2.5, 3 years to get one built. They're gonna be 36 years old by then. Now, and the problem with not having a second lead pumper or pumper tanker out around lake. If our main truck, the 9644 is down. For whatever reason in maintenance, and you're running out with no lead pumper, and something happens, what's your liability on that? I mean, probably never happened, it won't happen until it happens.
so looking over the current total, there's 28,000 kilometers on the vehicle.
Yes,
It's, and it's past due, right? I understand there's limits on how old they can be or how long you can have.
yeah, well, that one I just got a year ago, I got it for $5,000. Okay, it's not like we're losing money, the one I'm surplusing, we've had 8 years, I got that one for $10,000.
Another question then would be, if you replace that truck with, what would you get any for that one? Would you sell it or?
Number 5 maybe, number 7, not likely.
No, number 5.
Yes, most probably. As I say, I got it for 5. Depends what's going on. My guys like that truck. It drives really well. It's a new style of walkthrough that they really like. That one we got from our friends next door in Monster Valley when they got their new truck in. This is what happens. You get your new truck, you get rid of the old. So it's quite functional at this particular point. You could get money for it, whether it's 10,000 or a few dollars more, but probably not much more than that. In fact, this is what we're going to talk about with my guys, with the one we're considering the surplus. Is it worth taking the fittings and everything off that truck? You know, for us to salvage for parts before it goes to raw salvage. And we'll look at things like that, because sometimes, especially, you know what it's like, you're buying something for a fire department, it's 3, 4, 5 times the cost of anywhere else, okay? So even seals and fittings and hose connectors, et cetera, it's amazing what you can spend. So,
Thank you.
okay,
I think we're good. Thank you.
thank you.
Dean.
I'm just doing regular meetings right now, and last Friday with the rain, we put on a bunch of chains on our power trucks, because out of the hills. It became really slippy, so we had to do a lot of sanding and salting. Cutting trees on the intersection of the Mountain View and Simpson Pit. Usually the corner where that intersection is, it's usually the bad spot where they have a whole bunch of needles and leaves and stuff like that for the grading time in the spring and fall, so we get rid of those. Equipment maintenance continues as well. We've been coal patching when required. Just let council know, but all the roads were really rough in a lot of spots. We're trying to grade when we can, but most of it's either frozen and saturated, so we can't grade them because it's going to turn to mud. But we're going to try to do our best to get it out because the frost is coming up out of the ground as well. So we're going to try to do the best when we can get a chance to grade them. Actually today, I know we talked yesterday about the trees on Bowden Street. So today I met with a member of the other River Power. So he's going to come on Tuesday to cut them down. So we should get those done by Tuesday, hopefully. Just the next meeting, disposing of them, or we're taking care of it. Yeah, they're just going to cut them down, and they're council decided we're going to, take care of it ourselves. Take the wood, we have a chipper, we're gonna get chip it all and clean it all up or whatever. So that will be done hopefully Tuesday, like I said, unless there's something like a windstorm or whatever coming up, but we said other than that, it should be doing on Tuesday. In your package there, I guess you'll see the county report with the white lines or whatever painted or whatever. I contacted this person, the director of the county rent crew, and he said that the cost was roughly $460 to $475 per unit. Just want to know council directions because they're going to meet with me on site, just to see where, and like you'll have to abide by their policy, obviously, but how many this council wish to put in. It's up to the council, obviously, whether it's going to be, but if the council can kind of give directions, but maybe we could say, this one here, just kind of.
I haven't had time to read all this, but so they, Petawawa, did you say Petawawa paid for?
It's 50/50.
It's 50/50.
Dean, how many would you say wouldn't, Ted, you talked about before Annie Street or after Annie Street?
I'm thinking you don't need two, one coming in down, one coming.
One each way.
Cause it's 40 kilometers right from the highway to.
All the way through.
Ruby Road.
So that 460 to 475, that would be the cost of the paint plus the stencil. They have the stenciling, right?
Yes.
So that's the bottom line cost divided by 2.
Correct, so it'd be $500.
It's $500
Two of them.
or 2. Yeah.
I think it's a good thing for $500.
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
And where does council figure it should be placed? It's up to the county, obviously, but we give recommendations to the county.
So I'm thinking that I'm probably somewhere around like where Johnny Bojack lives, when they come around that corner on the straight stretch.
On the straight stretch, yeah.
Yeah.
And on this way, where we.
Probably around the hardware. Just after, or
Want it up here somewhere.
What about by the fountain?
I would say somewhere there, there's a hill and everything.
do you think that far ahead?
Depends on the council wants to do it, but if they want to do more, it's up to council. I would say yes. Somewhere this way.
So then if you put one here, would you need another one farther down? Like where there's going to be a lot of people?
Well, surely when they see the sign here, that gives them enough time to go From here to here.
Only once we go by here, we have to see it.
We are also gonna have that speed sign right by Annie Street, the digital sign that they're giving us for a little while, yeah.
It's only temporary
Well, unless they.
on his lawn. No, they move them irregardless.
Okay.
This is just what do they call it, Dean? A drop off?
I think we tried 2 this year, see how it works. And then we can.
Go from there. Then we're gonna take the whole, all of them. Hold on. I'm just kidding. Anybody else have any questions? Do we need a resolution? We're doing a resolution.
Yeah.
So I'll just leave it down on site there and.
Yeah.
That makes sense, like I said, our house. Are you meeting with them? Sorry, when are you meeting with them? No, I don't know. I'll have to call you to see.
Okay, so I have a resolution on the floor, a move by Maureen McMillan, second by Bill Smith. Motion of council KHR to support the painting of the speed limit on Queen Street, with KHR paying 50% of the cost.
2, right? Did you say 2?
Painting of the speed limit on Queen Street.
Put speed limits. Plural.
Plural?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 6, yeah. Thank you, council. And you have more. I know you have more.
The only thing I have is, Councilor Bean there brought attention to Red Rock. If you see the package with, regard to the snowmobile trail on, 45 corridor plus Red Rock Road. Some issues there with, looking up the asphalt. I did talk to a member of the Snowmobile Club today, and they're willing to work with us, trying to see if they can reroute because it is on the corner, which there is steel traffic, so we know that the rumor steel tracks. I think you had said, Brian, that it used to be rubber or something like that, and that's what I was told. Yeah, we're rubber at one time, but we're using now, it's definitely steel. Yeah. Especially around that corner, when you turn over anything with a dozer or, an excavator, and obviously the grooming trail, when you turn a corner. Especially, they made us money was mile, and it's on the surface pavement, I think it was asphalt, but the surface pavement seems to bother in town here. What's that, sir? It doesn't seem to bother in town here, pavement. No, this is service street. Service street, they come out of the Water Street. Down across the bridge and on Mill Street.
So have you seen this?
I was out when the Brian first time in March. I had called Dean about it on just before lunch break some 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And I witnessed it again today, firsthand when I came through with the bus, the woman was right ahead of me and the kids had an ass. They were there on the corner by Albert's.
So it's right on the corner?
Right on the corner is really the worst spot.
Have you seen it also, Phil?
He came to my door on Saturday every morning. I just went out to have a look. Of course, it was cold that morning. The only one you could see was the one just before his yard where he was turning. The rest was no problem. But today, it's being soft, it's unreal.
They hacked it right up.
Yeah.
So how much of a distance is this? What distance is it?
So it's all for the quarter. They go right down the whole, like they do jump onto the road rounds or whatever.
Yeah.
But they do commute out on the guardrails where those 2 culverts are on the Port Road. They come out onto those and come up and turn over.
What would it cost to repair this?
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to take a look at it.
Like a better, closer look in depth?
Yes, because like I said, Brian was saying, he said, he seen it firsthand today, and today was mild. I did see it the other day. It looks much worse today. Yeah, so I didn't see it today. I think
We'll have to tell them they can,
Absolutely.
gotta choose a groomer up that road.
Yeah, and would they accept any responsibility for what they've done so far?
They said they could, we'd like to see if they could reroute it somewhere else, but we have to talk to them.
We'll have to tell them they have to rewrite it now.
Yeah.
We'll have to route, we also have to keep in mind, we'll have to cross the road in places, like every other township around here. And it is hard on the roads, but it is also an economic development issue. We can't be closing the trails down.
Oh, no.
We have to stop some of this cost, so you got people to come to their townships and spend money in our businesses.
It's a really well-used trail, I'll say that. Oh, even this year with the lake not being really safe, it's still really well-used. I've done that trail for so long that they just changed it, so I'm gonna say maybe. Landowner thinks it was 10 years, I think it's about 5 years. I used to sled that all the time.
I do agree we do have to try to figure a better route, so we're not coming down the length of the road, but.
Where does it go on to the lake, Al? I
It
don't know.
used to go, when you cross, Round Lake Road 58. It goes, and then it would go through there, there was, I don't know who used to own the property, but it's wooded land, the trail goes through. Comes over to, the old Red Rock, there was a cabin up, just up the top a little bit, and you go down there, and you go down, I think from here. You get the side of the wall, and then you're cut through, there was a cottage with a driveway, which would be used all winter, and there was permission to go through there, and then you're on the lake. So you were only on Red Rock Road from here to there.
Exactly, so now where do you go on the lake? Why is the trail?
Because it goes down where Robert Pekowski lives, where the groomer is.
Okay, so it's still going there to park the river, is that?
No, that's, the groomer stays there, but the trail, that's the main trail.
Well, that's where it goes
The
on.
main trail, then it goes through his yard and down the hill and on.
Okay.
The reason I think it switched there, Harold, that what you're talking about, the old Red Rock over there, across, is the homeowner apparently built a house there, not.
I believe, but that's probably,
You know, that's why they get out of it, because they built a big house, there's no room for.
no, you had to be careful before, because it's up a cottage.
Maybe
You had to have a reason.
if you are talking to them, are you sure the groomer isn't just parking there, because the groomers will not cross lakes anymore?
Well, no, they haven't crossed in years and years.
He must be just driving down there to park and then coming back,
No,
because doesn't the trail end at the lake?
no,
Or does the
you
trail?
can still go on the lake, it's usually it's state, this year it wasn't state.
I know, but that's what I'm saying, the groomer goes across lakes, the groomer just does that way, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
he lives there, Robert lives there.
I know, but that's what I'm saying.
He parks the vehicle, he parks the
The
groomer there.
groomer probably doesn't have to come all the way down there, because the trail is on the road right to the lake.
No, has his house, where he parks the groomer on the lake.
Yeah, it just goes off the road, yeah, it's a house. Right? There's no land there for the groomer to go on.
But it's still.
So you're saying that's the only access he has to his place? To cross that street?
I know where he lives.
So that's
Been
the
there long before I was been up here.
But if the trail goes there on the lake, you have the road. The trail ends at his house, so right, besides going across the
Yeah,
lake,
yeah.
it doesn't come towards,
No,
No,
but that's what I'm saying, the groomer probably doesn't have. All the way down to the house, it's the actual trail ends way up.
no, that's the only access there is right now that's
the
open.
trail comes out from beach now
And it comes to the road,
Yeah,
where does it go then?
to
His
To
house.
So the snowmobiles go all the way down the road to his house. So they don't have to groom the road. What I'm saying.
Yeah, but the group,
so you're saying
If he's driving the groomer all that way to do 60 feet of trail from the road to the lake.
He does more than that, though, I think, when you come around that corner,
Yeah,
when you hit 40-part corridor, the groomer jumps on the left-hand side of the road, and it goes right down all the way
but
to
it's
the.
not on the road, it's on the road.
all the land, all the land.
Well, that's what I was trying to get at.
And then it comes to the guardrails, and then it zips out, and then it comes back in.
So they're going to have to figure it out.
so there's 3 or 4 places that he's on the road,
Yeah,
He has to cross.
and that
And
I was under the impression that something all the way down the road.
No. Because 99% of it's road allowance.
Okay.
and one part is in front of the person's house,
No, it goes over.
or is he just a concerned person?
It crosses his driveway, which, but the groomer's on the road,
On the road, I'm saying.
but it still crosses his driveway, not, absolutely. You know, I mean, that's not where any, not the damage is done. The damage is done in these other spots.
Yeah.
On our paved.
Yeah.
Portion of the road, which is the cost. It
But
needs to be looked
You
at.
couldn't even see a track on the laneway thing. Like you couldn't see where the police dug into his laneway. You put one track out on the road, the other track was on the laneway. If you look where you come out, just to get over his driveway. 2 weeks ago, he dug the whole thing out on both sides of his culvert.
So
So it's down some direction.
would you, I'll just rephrase, I think what I'm hearing is that Dean to sit with the groomer or those people and have a discussion on a different route if possible. And going back to what Ted said about the economic development side, we're gonna have to repair that. Does everyone share that that's those sentiments?
Yeah, I think we can see if the snow will be covered.
Of course,
Up to the
yeah.
president there then, and maybe they can find a trail closer instead of going down.
The part about the trail is absolutely, you can't run a steel track machine down a big road.
Yeah.
This doesn't work. Anybody with an excavator, bulldozer, if you wanna cross the road, you gotta put something.
I would
in
do it.
it. You can't just
Yeah.
cross. And it's making a mess of our road.
The canoes we do for driving around every day. You don't even have to know where the ski trail is, you can see it in the pavement.
Yeah.
Carabites and cleats,
You can see it a mile.
dug to the track.
So is everyone okay with that direction to give to Dean and let him take it? Do you want to get back to us then?
What about the Prince, we want to reply to him, I think you could tell him a letter or something, tell him what we're doing.
Of course. Dean and Tammy, can you guys work on that letter and send it to Mr. Prince? Well, he did send the letter. And he did point out there is a problem, which is, we're thankful for that. So, okay. Everybody okay with it?
So I'll get in touch with, them or whatever, but, now are we looking for funding to help pay for the cost or just we live in?
I don't think, I don't think we need to send them a letter, Harold, just call him, he contacted Harold.
I think it might be better though if we have a hard copy.
Stays on here, he wants something.
I think it would be better for,
There's lots of things people ask.
no, but for our sake, I think it's better if we have something documented. That this is the process we're doing.
I know exhausted. Yeah, I know, but he get asked for stuff all the time, we don't, okay, yeah, we're doing it. That's my thing.
Okay. Well, let's have a vote. Who wants to write the letter first? Who wants to write a letter to Mark Prince? Let's vote. 1, 2,
Doesn't
3,
need to be
4,
long.
5. Okay. Letter goes out. You're done? Oh,
Trucks. Bills now.
oh,
You want
right.
to skip over and do the expenditures before my report?
Would you like to do that?
Yep, that's.
Okay, we'd like to have a motion to be read for expenditures.
First, Ted Brown declare pecuniary financial interest with road and general voucher 02-2023. So moved by Harold Levine, second by Carl Field, motion to approve the road and general voucher 02-2023 in the amount of $588,844.32.
Any questions or concerns? Yes, sir. Okay, wait a second, I might have a few answers before Cam even looks them up. Okay, fire.
Brandon, I've got all these.
Let's go by age.
Me. 25019.
25019. I don't have that answer. That's a shoreline thing, it says. 019, right?
Yeah. Brandon.
Fifth one down.
That is what Will explained yesterday. That's the shoreline road allowance reserve that we had to pay back to the township. Because we paid for.
I'm going around one ounce this one. 25024.
Same thing.
Okay.
I knew that one because it was a bigger amount. I asked for that
Now
one.
I'm getting 25031. What was that for?
Washer and back here. Well, they were here for 4 days.
I think it was two
Oh.
invoices.
Oh, but they were- that one was backed up. Remember that time frame?
Yeah.
And it was a mess.
What is that number again? 2031.
You can pipe in anytime you want.
25031.
That was close,
9,568.
but there's two invoices.
And I see two of the rest.
Yeah,
What is
probably,
that?
I'm sure that's what it is.
Okay, I'll keep going then.
Okay.
This is
25043.
25033. I'm just looking at the expenditure,
Well,
and then we got two of them here, and then we're talking we're talking $11,000
So 25033 is the name of Clement.
and 25054. Like we're talking over $10,000.
Black hole for the fire trucks and also.
What's it for?
It'd be for repairs on my vehicles and some repairs on that box.
and these would have happened, they were outsourced before we did what we did. Does that make sense?
25043, 111,276.19.
That was the environment,
Which number?
043.
25043.
That is the write-off for the Queen Street, the water and sewage for the write-off for the Queen Street properties.
No, I don't know where this was. 25052, $1,130. It was just none of the stuff our country for council before it's done. Nature of design, what is it for?
Science, some sort.
Yeah, that's for Bradley's Park.
For what?
That was for Bradley's
Yeah,
Park.
but it'd be nice if we knew.
But all this stuff is pre-approved through council through the budget process and the projects.
See this stuff, you're looking at 111,000, 7,000, 11,000, one more.
How about 25062? How come we didn't ask about that one?
EIA Association.
Cause he knew I was gonna ask for it.
That one is a refund on, so we got a hunk of money and only part of it was used. And then they had to return the rest.
It's not that we had to return it. We're still gonna get it, but we
Yeah.
just had to go through a different avenue for that. Yes.
You're on a roll, keep going.
25080 3D graphics, what was that? 1,374.36.
Did you have supper tonight?
What number?
08.
25080
080.
After,
3D graphics. 1,374.36.
I didn't ask about that one. I didn't.
seen another mask electric, I would stop. No,
Did you use those, Chris?
what's that?
Did you use that one?
For 3D graphics? No. The check was the 20th of February. Maybe Bob? Didn't you get?
Has to be signs of some sort of signs. No, you're supposed to ask. It's good.
Canada flags, the Canadian
Oh.
flags.
What?
No, that was that's admin office. We order those.
Okay, I'm just asking if I,
Keep going. Don't stop.
I can keep going, don't have to stop. Brian, that's all.
Yeah, we're pretty much all covered. I just have one question.
He missed one.
So I'm just want to know on the ones, so we had two on here from Mass Electric, one for 9,500 something, and then another one for just, and Dale said they were.
So that was this washroom and that one, and we also had there's something for the.
Okay, so my question is, does Mass Electric get all of our electric now or what? No. We figure it out, so how does it work?
Speed and who's gonna do it.
Thank you.
I just let it go down here, see all these little nuts.
Any ones on this side?
Yeah, I have one, 25078.
7-8,
It's not big, it's just. a question.
Round Lake Food Center.
Gas or propane, I think. Round Lake Food Market.
That would probably be gas for these lease.
Like that.
Okay, great. I'm not cheap, I'm just tight.
It's okay. No, we need you to ask those questions. Anybody else have any? Would it, and I don't know if we can even do this. Can we put any sort of description on this? We can't fit it in,
No,
Just to help?
ask
What you
questions.
see is.
Just ask
what's
questions?
fit in there.
Okay.
Yep.
that's fine.
Well, I just, pretty stuff, I just.
Well, yeah.
Fine, when I see $600,000.
Well, you see six, when you see six digits, when you see six digits,
Yeah.
Okay, again, the motion. Moved by Harold Levine, second by Carl Keel, motion to approve road and general voucher 2023 in the amount of $588,844.32.
all those in favor? Carried. And you're the one who wrote the motion.
Dave?
Ted, you come back.
Is there any point in investigating service contracts with some of these people so that you can define an hourly rate and they get all the business being able to service?
I think what's been done in the past, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you can't do that because you don't allow, if there's a procurement bylaw.
Yeah, I was gonna turn it over to Dale for an answer.
Or if you're on by law and. And so. Emergency, you call who's available because.
Okay, we did skip Tammy, but now we're gonna go back to Tammy, okay, for her report. Thanks, Dean.
Dessert ready.
So I just have a couple of things. I just want to let you know that in your package that I sent in the mail, I provided you with the resolution from the Township of Bonisher Valley indicating that they are closing the Bonisher Valley Pound effective April 30th. But also too, and you were made aware yesterday at Finance Committee that CBO bylaw officer Tyler Mask has been in contact with SPCA in relation to their services. And he will advise council when he's gathered the relevant information. The other thing I had provided in your package was that the Killaloon District Public Library librarian Nicole Zumak is inquiring if the Friends of the Library could utilize council chambers on March the 29th from 4 to 6. Now, I know we have a meeting that day at 7, but she has indicated that they will be gone long before that. So if council's okay with it,
Everybody okay?
okay,
Okay.
I will advise her. I provided you as well at your desk with the statement of council remuneration for 2022 as pursuant to section 284(1) of the municipal act.
Don't we need a resolution for that dollar value? There's a-
No, we explained that yesterday. There's no dollar value
Okay, we wait until they do something.
until SPCA does, but that's not SPCA's dollar value. That's what Lancashire Valley was requesting.
Okay.
Yep. The other thing I've placed at your desk is a request that came from MP Cheryl Gallant's office. So she's inquiring if she could book the council chambers on Tuesday, July the 18th to host her annual now I can't say it, constituency clinic once again this year.
Everybody okay with that?
Okay, I will advise. And lastly, I prepared a motion to accept the 2022 financial statements, which were presented yesterday at the Finance Committee meeting. So moved by Bill Smith, second by Maureen McMillan, that council for the Township of Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards accept financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2022 for the Township of Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? 6.
Okay, and that's the end of my report.
Okay, correspondence.
Committee reports.
Committee
We have
reports.
all those motions that we
Oh, right.
decided on
Okay.
yesterday. So the first motion
We
I
have 3 motions.
I'm the last thing, yeah.
So the first motion I have is moved by Bill Smith, second by Maureen McMillan, motion to hire William Hartwig for the Public Works Waste Management Attendant position effective March 22nd, 2023.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? 6.
Moved by Ted Brown, second by Harold Levine, motion that the Finance Committee is recommending that council for the Township of Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards authorize the Public Works Superintendent to proceed with the A gravel tender.
Questions or concerns? All those in favor? 6.
And the last one, moved by Ted Brown, second by Carl Keel, motion that the Finance Committee is recommending that council for the Township of Killaloe, Haggerty and Richards pre-approved preliminary budget request for community development for the following: plants, $2,000, environmental action tour, $5,000, volunteer appreciation, $1,500, and the OBIAA conference, which is $2,100.
Any questions or concerns? None. All those in favor? 6.
And
Is this where we were talking about the interviews?
yes,
Would you like me to? Maybe the mayor can ask.
Bill.
I've been speaking with Chris and with Tammy and for interviewing for summer students, the way it's set up now, it would be the HR committee. I think that if with council's approval, it would make more sense for just Chris and I, their summer student positions for the 2 of us to do those interviews in the next 2 weeks. But we need council approval to vary from our procedure.
Any questions or concerns?
Are you sure about
Having seen none. All those in favor? 6.
Thank you.
Now we're ready for correspondence. Here comes the other tree. Okay, the first one, hopefully we have, you guys have them in the same order. The first one is from Chatham Kent. Tammy, I think we should support this resolution. And what do we do when we want to support it?
We have to write a resolution.
But have you guys read all these?
Yeah.
Okay, this is about the insurance costs. We're just supporting their resolution, basically. How the insurance costs have gone up so much.
Support.
Well, you called? Did you say it was all Carl that did it? Thank you, Carl.
I've asked him 6 times, but I told him to quickly go.
Brian, not the next one, but the one after you want to take a look at, or if you haven't. Okay.
You're the most.
I'm not sure I wanna.
South there.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor, moved by Maureen McMillan, second by Harold Levine, motion for council of KHR to support the resolution from Chad and Kent. Read resolution for reducing municipal insurance costs.
All those in favor? Carried. Next one is town of Carlton Place. And the next one is from North Perth. Brian, do you have an opinion on this one?
No, I'm not at this time, I'm not,
We'll just file with them.
unless someone else.
Town of Essex. The next one from town of Essex. If we want to move that to the planning committee, can I just say that?
You mean this correspondence?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to move that one to the planning committee. About the short-term rentals. A township of Lac of Bays. Municipality of Calvin. Town of Greater Napanee. Another one from the town of Greater Napanee. And another one from Greater Napanee.
They're not in meetings all the time.
The next one is in regards to public lands. Where did this one come from?
Ground Forest and Land Policy
Yeah.
Constructor.
I'd like to move that one to the planning committee also. And I attached the letter I got from John Yakubuski from the Honorable Graydon Smith in regards to our lake. Brian, would you be able to talk with Don Pouliot and Rob Norris and let's come up with our next plan, our next stage of the plan? And what we can do. And
I'll talk to you about that.
okay, we should have a plan of some sort, what we're going to do next. And then the climate matters, Valley Earth Days. Okay,
I think I'd like to announce for all of the people who are watching this online that all of that correspondence is up on the website, on the township website. Thank you, Ken.
good stuff. Where are we now? Bylaws.
Motion for bylaw 11/2023.
Yeah, motion for bylaw 11-2023.
Moved by Harold Levine, second by Brian Pikowski, that bylaw 11/2023 being a bylaw to extend the contract for the provision of the services of fire chief be given its first, second, and third reading and finally pass this 21st day of March 2023.
Any questions or concerns? All those in favor? Unfinished business. Tap at the visitors.
That's me.
That's you?
Yes.
We need to put your name back here. Well,
So I know this is, this was discussed by previous council, but we have some new people at the table, so I just want to readdress the Rapid Visitors Information Center. It's kind of a hot topic during the election. I have a little spiel here that I'd like you to listen to see if I can get you to change your minds. So we know that many residents of KHR are living on the edge. People who can't afford to go out and buy clean drinking water will drink well water that isn't safe. Access to potable water is a fundamental obligation of any municipality. When people lack access to clean water, the impact can be profound. So doing a quick Google search, this was like super fast, because I just wanted to see what other municipalities are doing. Many towns are actually expanding free public access to drinking water. Some examples, the municipality of McDougall offers its cottagers and nearby residents a free water tap off the municipal water system and actually advertise right on their webpage. The township of Dysart in Haliburton County has 2 public access taps to fill large containers as well as numerous fountains around their town. Ravenhurst has 4 public access water taps, and I think they'd be a good example. They're like a tourist, you know, Muskoka, like really touristy area. 4 public access water taps. The district says these taps help ensure that safe water is easily available to everyone, both residents and visitors. Flooding in our rural areas, contaminated wells, power outages, drought and poverty are some of the reasons why people need access to clean water. During COVID, I know 3 people in this municipality, in this town, who are living out of their cars. I also know several residents who are living in houses or squatting in residences where they didn't have any water. I've helped fill bottles at the CRC for people who have well issues or issues with their pumps. Again, like affordability is a huge issue for people. If your well goes down, you know, my pump line, it was like a $10,000 job. If you don't have that money, you can't fix the well. Tomorrow, Wednesday, March 22nd, is World Water Day. Isn't that ironic? And I personally can't think of a better way to celebrate than to turn our community tap back on. So I have some suggestions for preventing misuse, which is everybody's, you know, big thing. We can put up signage prohibiting commercial users, ensure proper lighting, maybe install a security camera. And I fully expect that residents in KHR are going to monitor this tap. You know, they're probably going to be like more vigilant than the police at monitoring this tap, and will promptly report any misuse to the township. Our township is already paying for water at the tourist information booth. We have a fixed rate. We're not on a, you know, we don't have a metered system in our community. So the cost issue, you know, I mean, it comes out to, I did work out the cost. If we consider this a large commercial rate, it's 33 cents per resident in our municipality to have access to water. I just would like us to have the opportunity to try this. If it's misused, you know, maybe we can revisit this, but I really think it was a short-sighted decision. But let's have a conversation.
You just went through the budget yesterday. Our water plant is like $12,000 in deficit. We have to draw out of our reserves every year to keep it going. We've got 100 customers, and those customers are trying to pay to keep our water plant going. And I've seen people come up there with barrels and fill them up with water and we had it on. And we've got us 100 customers, we're in deficit of the water plant. The government says we gotta come back revenue neutral, so we're drawing out of reserves to just keep our water plant going for the 100 customers we have. That's my story, I'm sticking to it.
And I have to agree with Carol, I feel for these people. But I feel for the residents that are paying for the water, we're raising their rates, I think.
It's going up 6%.
6% a person or a housing. If we wanna look at getting a meter where it's metered at the water plant or something, or at the information booth. But if this guy down here on Cole Street has to pay for his water. People that use that water don't have to pay for it, in my opinion.
We are paying for it already, though. There's water at the tourist, is there not water at the tourist information booth
For the washrooms,
for the washrooms?
the
There
taps.
is water there,
Uh-huh.
yes, there is. But along with what they were saying, water was disconnected because of the fact that, or initially we disconnected it for COVID.
Go with it.
It was the fact of, like they said, only 100 residents pay for it. Everybody and their brother from outside of this town as well, we're coming in, filling on multiple things. Containers from small liters to multiple 1,000-liter containers and trailers. Water was being left on a regular basis. There was garden hose being tried places.
Mhm.
And there was one big thing, it was being severely abused. Around here, turned on, and basically the size of the containers.
I've seen a guy pull in there with a trailer like 5, 8, or 50-gallon drums, fill them up with water right away. But and we gotta pay for the maintenance on that.
As far as the policing aspect of it, I can go and tell them to not use it, I can't stop them.
Mhm.
There's no bylaws that say you gotta be from this municipality. Like I said before, I feel for these people, but I feel more for the 100 people that are paying for that water every day or every month, that can't afford it. That can't afford it either, but they have to pay for it.
The other thing that you mentioned, would you have to put a water monitor or meter on it? That's just gonna throw us even further into debt on that, because those things there, I did actually contact municipality about their pay for use thing. It wasn't just to go off the street and buy it, they actually had to have it custom made by an electrical and engineering plumbing company that built it, and said approximately 7,000, and then that was in 2017, something like that they put it in. There is these little ones, they have kiosk type thing that you can get that are all over the place, but you gotta rent them because you can't buy them. And I haven't gone on the side of the you can get some fountains that fill up water bottles. You're still looking at $1,000 to $3,000 for a fountain. Like a lot of debt going into it just to turn water back on there. I understand, like you said, but you're looking at basically costing the water a lot more again.
And I know he mentioned, I can't remember the names of the municipalities, but he did mention 2 or 3 of them there.
Mhm.
They have thousands of people on their water system. But I know when I lived in London, I paid for water and it was nothing really. But like Carol said, our problem is we got 100 people that have to support that whole thing.
I think municipalities look at it sometimes too as a boon for tourism, like it is like, we look at overall some of the economic development stuff, it is a way to bring people into the community as well. And it also shows that we care about the people who live in our community. It's like, that's what I, like, a lot of these places are, you know, realizing that this is important. There was one community that, I don't know, if this is an option, who actually put a box over their water tap, and there was a key. So that, you know, somebody had access, I don't know how they worked the key system, or if they gave it to people who needed to use it, but that is another option, you know, but.
It's an option, but it's a big expense to the municipality, because now you gotta have somebody that's kind of run, well, here or there.
Well, maybe-
How would you decide who gets to do it?
First information.
Which member of the family? What member of the family gets it? The son has a cottage, the other son has a farm. Brian?
I agree basically with everything you guys well said, and the only way I would agree to it is if it was needed. And unfortunately, like Gail says, it's another expense added on to what Carol already said, how much we're at already in that. We're gonna add more to it. And unfortunately, we're stuck in a small community with 100 people going to water.
Harold?
I agree, we have too many, we don't have enough people to pay for what we're getting now. 12,000 now, do we want to go another 12,000 in the hole for water? Where do we get it from? And I've seen people filling up barrels, and I'm just coming through, I mean. It's not like a 5-gallon jug, I mean, 25-gallon drums.
Bill?
It's clear that it doesn't get the support of council, or it's not gonna get the support of council. And I completely understand your reasons, and I agree with them. But what can we do? Like, is there some other kind of solution that's going to meet the needs of the people who are in need, who councillors are saying they feel for them? Without the problems that you're suggesting. So is there another place where it would be less likely for that to happen, where that could be a place where it's less likely for that to happen? Maybe here at the township building, maybe in front of the township building.
I wanted to decide that we didn't put a padlock on because it was, now I'm not saying it was, but it was being turned on steady at people.
Yeah.
Like, as far as drinking water, and I don't know anything about it, but like the food bank and stuff, I don't know if they give out drinking water or.
No, as Maureen mentioned, CRC, we have a number of people who come in for water and we fill up their jugs for them.
Well, I think we gotta maybe think about it here. It's not a decision, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd like to try and come up
Yeah.
with another solution if there is, see if there is some other kind of.
Suggestions, if there is any out there, we have to hear them. Like you say, you don't want to see people without water, but you don't want to see. Happening either.
So maybe we can put our thinking caps on and revisit.
So was there in fact, did people actually see people filling up the big drums and gallons? Yeah. Okay. How about we defer this to the next meeting?
Or until we bring it back to another.
Yeah, we come up with something.
Or a solution?
I would rather do search on the metering stuff and like I. Done a fair bit of looking around, because they like, those are one that I found that I know, and it was actually fall. And like they're using the cheaper sign and they that was more of a bulk supply. I know where I grew up, they had a bulk supply that you could go in and they. For example, when the guys are working on the road, say Blue Chip was working in the road or something, they come in and they fill up for X number of dollars off fire. Like bulk supply systems, those are more readily available. I will continue to look for a metering base of some sort. Where you drop in a quarter and you get your 10-meter bulb or 18-meter bulb or however that works. I will look for that. I have a few dealers out. I sent it in my emails there today. And I will continue to look and get some information.
Okay. It's going to be deferred, so
Just mention one thing,
by all means.
shortfall of revenue over expenses for the water plant. 2021 was $15,630. 2022 is $11,342 shortfall we have to come up with.
And also we had, discussed yesterday in regards to an increase.
Yeah.
And we know that there was only so many people, and how much can we increase that price? So it's food for thought.
And it's been regulated now that it's going up 6% per year for, I forget how many years. Whatever it is, but like we're going in the hole every year with water.
I think you kind of find that a really good point of it too. The number was a lot higher when the top was there than it was since we've taken that top away.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, let's move on.
Sorry.
Tammy, Maureen,
It's not dead yet, Carl.
Maureen, Maureen,
Yes.
you're okay?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, you have something with the farmer's market.
Yes. So I have met with our economic development committee. I originally presented a package for Sue with a nice color drawing. I did some revisions after comments from the group, and then I've come to this point right here. So the first part here, the abstract, I'm going to try to make it brief and give you guys the nuts and bolts of it. But the basic part of the abstract is saying that this is an abstract and that we will either have to examine a special event or a modified facilities use agreement, and that this is just meant to act as a template to discuss the main concerns that we will be bringing forward. And then next steps, if this is approved, then we would have a meeting with the Heritage and Ecology Society and see what they think, and then bring that final document back to council. So I've laid out several things that I think are extremely important that we need to do in this contract. First off would be the length. I think it should only be a year. And for that, it gives us the ability to review every year and see what worked and see what didn't. Park layout, as you can see, I've gone to quite an effort to make sure that everything's thought of and then drawn in this layout. The main thing is obviously with safety, and that there should be no vehicles or booth permitted within 50 feet of the roadway. And that's pretty obvious that if a vehicle was off the road, we need to have at least some sort of buffer there, and an emergency vehicle needs to get through. We need to have a buffer there that people can safely get through without getting having a cart in the way. Power supply. So there is power at Queen Street and as well as the gazebos. You'll see with the little lightning bolts there. I've done a pattern here about how I think that it should be laid out. Typically, there shouldn't be power cables running on the ground where people are going to be walking. So because they don't have a mat like we have for the Irish Gathering for Canada Day, they would need to hide them in behind and potentially have cones, but at least away from the public. And that should satisfy their needs. We'll see what they say, but I don't think they have even that many power booths. So that should be plenty, but it is a working document. And that goes, so next, the vehicles in the park. Dale and I and also the committee have talked about this at length, and we don't feel that there should be vehicles allowed in the park during the event. It's extremely dangerous. You don't know when you're backing out what you're backing into. So the safest thing to do is to not have the vehicles in the park. And also that we we want to damage the grass. Obviously, that's not going to be totally avoidable, but if the vehicles are sitting there for a long time, it could create ruts and other things. So we want to try to avoid that also. On the same note, designated loading and unloading times. I believe it's extremely important that we have some sort of system where if people are going into the park with vehicles, that someone is watching both the entrances to make sure that no one's coming. And if they are, similar to a traffic guard, that they're letting them go through and stopping the vehicles. This is again for safety, to make sure that nobody is driving and operating a vehicle while anyone's in the park, because that is very dangerous. And so then if there was someone, they would stop, let them go, and then the vehicle could resume loading. And that way we're mitigating the situation. But there is also an argument to say that maybe we shouldn't allow any vehicles at all. So that is something that council will have to think about. But if they are, they should be on the tiles and only operating when no one's in the park. Accessibility just that we should have 2 meters in between. I've talked to the farmers market, they keep them side by side, so as long as there's room in the front, like you see in this design, and we're watching out for accessibility. Washrooms, we've already talked about that, with the idea being that our summer student would be operating the visitor information center, that they would just coordinate that with us. Health unit approvals, so we just want to make sure that the farmers market, so the farmers market does have certain exemptions for the farmers market, but we just want to make sure that they actually have that exemption, because there is a technicality where they have to be a certain percentage of farmers. So we just want to basically know that they have that certification in writing, and that we coordinate that with the health unit. Because that is important to us, because as the landowner, we are liable for the health specific part, because we're the property owner.
Chris, but we don't get the talk to the Department of Health. They do that, right?
Yeah,
They get,
they would provide.
they get the certificate. Good.
Yeah, exactly. So list of vendors, I just thought this was important in case of emergency, that we know who's there. Who's there, very simply, they already have that list, but we just know if there's an emergency, we're looking for somebody that they're able to be found. Garbage, this is, and recycling, this is extremely important. It shouldn't be our responsibility to take the garbage and recycling out of the park. They should be providing the receptacles, and they should also be taking the garbage and recycling with them. First aid, something very simple built into this agreement is that they had a plan if there's an emergency, even if that is called 911. That we know that they have a plan, because as we've talked with our insurance before, simple things like that can go a long way. Irish gathering, so that is the main event that would be going on in the park during that time, and so we've already started talking with the farmers market about potentially using Lake Street, but in the agreement, it would have to say that in for township special events, that there would have to be a relocation for such a thing. And finally, insurance. So we've confirmed with our insurance that they recommend 5 million. General liability coverage, we can take less, but that's what they recommend, but it sounds like that's already in order. The Lions already have that insurance, and that basically all we would need to do would be able to list just for that specific property. So if this all sounds good to council, basically the next step would be that we would schedule a meeting, invite the Heritage and Ecology Society to the meeting, and that we see what they think about this, to see if there's any kind of things that we might have missed or that they are not able to do. Then we mitigate that in the meeting, and then we bring a final document back to council that can be signed by both parties, and then we can hopefully get them going in the park. So that is my report on the farmers market in Station Park. Open to comments and questions about the report itself or anything in general.
Have we determined? I don't think in our group, in our committee, determined a fee for usage within the township. We had bantered a permit fee. Maureen, did we finalize anything?
No, I said that, that's like a Carl department, it's used in bylaws.
Yeah. Talking about. Lowering it
Or leaving it the same, yeah.
you know,
We never finalized that portion. So that needs to be discussed at some point also. Yeah. Okay, let's leave that. We don't need to talk about that right now. Or unless you want to.
No, I don't know,
Okay,
It'll be quick, definitely agree. Contract here. I do have a question, like you talked about first aid. Does that park have an actual 911 address? It probably should. What's that? It does? Okay, so we need to get it. Even for our stuff, we need to design there. So if somebody has to call an ambulance or police, that they can.
actually, that happened last year.
Yeah.
That guy hit his head on the,
Yeah. So it would be
Good
good
point.
at the start, but there should be some kind of, a nice sign that blends in with the park, but. This is 911 in case of emergency. I know even if you go into any rink now, there's signs everywhere.
Well, and our insurance recommended that our insurance recommended that when we were talking about rates and stuff, that part of that should always be that if there is an emergency call 911, as silly as that may sound, that is actually a way we can protect ourselves and
He says, chief's report tonight proves it. There was a 911 call that should have been made yesterday and it was told directly to his cell phone. So he just found it, got it, so the more signage.
Any other, Brian?
Okay, my question is, you mentioned in here, the health unit approval is. You take into consideration the vendors that are actually farmers.
Yeah.
Now, for our insurance, is that the same thing? Are they a farmer's market or? Does it matter?
The only reason why that is because it gives them exemptions to not have to have the, a permit to sell the food. So basically, anytime anyone wants to sell food or do any food, they have to get a permit from the health unit that says, we want to sell food and here's all the details, etc. And so basically what this does is it allows them a blanket term to say, you are a farmer's market, so you don't have to do that. So we just basically want to make sure that they are covered under that, and if they are, that we would ask that they would have a health unit, they would all get their, anyone selling food then would have a permit that they could do, and most of them already have it, so it's not a big deal, it's just one of those technical things, we just want to make sure on our end, because we're the landowner, that we have that, because typically any event that we have, we've got to get that approval from the health unit, but the farmer's market get a blanket thing, but only if they qualify technically as a farmer's market. And for all intents and purposes, they are. It's just a technicality thing that we want to make sure that we're covered for in that regard.
So that covers, yes, so that covers the food part of it. But for our insurance, if something was to happen there during the farmer's market, does it matter how many of them are actually farmers or?
No, this is,
They have their own issues.
they have their own insurance.
Yeah.
This is just for the food, specifically food.
And with the food, all those people need to have their food handler's license.
Yeah, and that just ensures an extra layer for us that we know that that's.
Are we going to be bringing the Heritage Society to our, what they're called officially?
Heritage College.
And ecology to our economic development meeting? Is that where we want to do this?
I think that would, if that's what council would like, that would probably make sense the most, that they could come in. It's a little less daunting of a situation. We can talk and then we can bring a report back to council of what we found, and then I can bring a proposed document back so
Okay.
that we're getting them going, because I think in the sake of time, that would make the most sense.
We have lots of time, you know.
So are you okay with that, Brian and Bill?
Yeah.
And can you reach out to them and send them an invitation?
You're live on the internet right now. I think they've just heard everything.
Well, if they're still, listening.
They need to know the date of the next.
God bless, if you're still listening.
I'm not.
That's all. Thank you, Fred.
Well, how would you order a cheers?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or I'm at the.
So direction from council is that this is okay,
Yeah,
and I
With
can,
Ed's amendment
with that,
about the 911 side,
okay,
or not amendment, with your suggestion.
okay, and I can go ahead and book that.
is there any other unfinished business? New business? I guess that one is Bill, right?
Yeah, I'd say so. To, Ish was here, Ish Talheimer was here and presented to us at last council, meeting, put some questions to us. Chris. He put some questions to us from the Affordable Housing Alliance with the R1 Valley. There were two real main parts to it. The first one is to endorse an application or to support an application that's going in to the Housing Innovation Grant. I'm not sure that that's the correct wording, but it is the Housing Innovation Grant. And to refresh you, what that would give us is if we were successful in getting that grant, or AHAOB was successful in getting that grant, we would be able to, the Alliance would be able to hire a staff person that would help to move forward applications, get us ready for applications for affordable housing. So that was a part of it. The other part of it is to consider, and I think it's a separate issue that we have to decide on, consider having an affordable housing committee as a committee of council. So those are the two things. Ish wanted me to, I spoke with him or I communicated with him earlier today, and he said that he had talked in the meeting about townships or municipalities needing to put pledges together. At this point, we think that that's premature, pledges of donations of land or.
Yeah, because he had said something about $1 million.
Yeah, at this point of the application, it's, he believes that, as long as we support the, we can go forward. And we would, in that letter of support, we would want to tell them the kinds of things that we would get out of that, like that we would benefit from having coordination, from having the legal support and legal advice and to put together an application for affordable housing. So that's the first part. So those two things that we need to decide on. And the second part is that it was just announced recently, we just learned of it, I learned of it today. There is a new federal housing program coming that will be released this summer, I believe is the time frame, and there's going to be a very short window of opportunity to be able to apply. And that it's the federal government program that aims to fairly rapidly build 100,000 units. And in order to get ready to apply, they've put out a primer. How should you apply? How should you get ready to apply for this grant? And the one thing that it says is that municipalities will need to have a community needs survey, community housing needs survey, to be able to demonstrate the need before applying. So originally, when we spoke to council, or when Ish spoke to council, he suggested that that would be something that would happen as that the coordinator of the innovation grant would do, but now we're learning that we need to have that ASAP.
So we need to provide it as the municipality or
Someone needs to do it.
Yeah, so Cameron Montgomery did one for NA, and we can use the same survey. I've reached out to her to get that survey and just for our township. It's the same information that they need as far as I know. I reached out to Ish and he said just talk to Cameron, so I'm hoping we can get hers and put our logo on it and we can ask the same questions to residents. Maybe we do libraries and different places in our community where people actually go.
It keeps us in the game.
Yeah.
We definitely need to stay in the game.
Yes.
You're talking about affordable housing. Where our little fire hall is there, we own that whole chunk of property. I remember years ago, the meetings came in and they had a whole.
It was,
They were going to build there, but they had the whole, everything was set up downstairs, even made models of it.
Yeah.
And it was.
then they lost their funding. After
Well,
after
one
the-
day, people appealed it and that's what,
the judge ruled in favor,
yeah, and canceled.
and then the Métis lost the funding.
But they were gonna build a housing complex over there.
That is a great site, and it happens to be on municipal water and sewer.
Yeah, and it's low, but it had to be back to there.
Yeah, there's ways.
We turned down that whole fire hall there, you got.
It's a great.
It's on our radar.
what do you need from us today?
A motion, well, we have a motion.
So I have the motion, I can get, it's to support the Affordable Housing Alliance's application to the Housing Innovation Grant. So it's a letter of support. So it's saying that KHR supports this application.
Now, as far as the committee. I don't know.
Right now,
You have to make all the committees.
right,
Yeah, so it's up to them.
right now, Bill and Maureen, Bill is on, or they're, no, you're both on the steering committee.
Yes.
So can there be multiple, you'd be on multiple committees?
No, I believe the request would be to make the steering committee, make the local committee a committee of council. That's what Ish was suggesting.
Okay, but you can't wear two hats, or can you?
Oh,
Yeah, Pembroke.
We already-
Is Brian on every committee?
Brian Adela?
Yeah,
He's on the steering committee and on the local government.
okay, so you can multitask, okay.
Yeah.
So ideally, we should have 3. Does anyone want to volunteer? Ted? Okay, Oh. you're not volunteering.
Yeah.
Would be great.
I think it's a very valid suggestion because we're all dealing with it. You know, every corner where everyone's asking us questions, so I think that's a great suggestion, and I think I'll put that one forward. Can we change that motion?
Well, let's do the first motion.
How many motions you got there?
Can we approve?
Okay, we're after, we only got, okay, never mind.
Moved by Bill Smith, second by Maureen McMillan, motion for council of KHR to support AAHOV's application to the Housing Innovation Grant.
All those in favor? Cease. Carried. I think what we're trying to do is show that we have full council and the oomph of the full council. That's very important.
Well, and what this implies as well is that there's staff support, not just staff support.
Amazing.
I don't think we need, go ahead. Do this one.
Moved by Bill Smith, second by Maureen McMillan, motion for the council of KHR to support the creation of an affordable housing committee of council with full council participation.
All those in favor? Carried. In this committee? I guess we do, eh?
Can we decide that in the first?
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors, and outside.
I think it's more important. I think it's more important that the 7 of us are all there. And I'm not, well, we can talk about it then.
Okay, and then just finally then for the survey, what do we need to do about that? I think it's important that we do it. I don't think we need a motion to do a survey.
When's our next mail out? We've done tax bills, right?
Mhm.
When's the next one?
In the summer, July.
That's too late.
That's sweet.
So I guess basically what we're asking is if we do a mail,
Pardon?
When's the newsletter?
December, so January, March, April, May or May, June. I think it's May, June.
Another thing that we could do is put paper copies of the survey around town, in businesses, and around like convenience store and whatnot, where people are likely to get them.
And we need to make sure we get them back somehow, so,
Put a QR code on
Yeah.
them so that people can do it online or something like that.
yeah, as soon as I get it, I'll do my magic online and.
so do you need anything from us tonight?
As long as you're not saying no,
Yeah,
I didn't hear any no's.
that's good enough. Thank you, that's all.
Good. We got the other one. We'll put that in the committee too,
Pardon?
on this other one. The fire department meeting
The meeting?
with the timesheets. Did you want to do that now
Might as well.
or in committee?
No, we can't do that.
Okay. Okay, next one is the under new business. We attended the fire department meeting last week. I think originally we thought it was going to be a quick tour of the facility.
Actually, I called that meeting.
Yeah.
Chair of.
Right.
So that's a call meeting.
Okay, so my question is, As far as members attending that meeting, my question is, should the members, all of council that were there, be able to bill that?
Yes, because it was a call, just.
Okay.
Called meeting that just wasn't in here. It's in the fire call.
Okay. Now, while we're on that topic, so if under the economic development group, there's a, and I don't want to be asking these questions all the time, but if we get a set rule down as far as what constitutes a meeting, what gets paid for, to give clarity to both Tammy and myself for approval of these meetings and stuff. So when, say, economic development, they have many brackets, okay? There's Irish Gathering, there's the loggers. What's been done in the past as far as a council member going to that meeting? Like it's a subcommittee of a committee. So like Brian would say you were rec
Well, the rec committee used to do all the.
and the line.
All that. Brian went as the chair to those meetings. And it was a meeting for him.
So that counted as a meeting to you. Okay,
Now the whole committee would go, just Brian. Go.
okay. There was something else. Good. Do you have any questions? Or like say affordable housing meetings? So again, that falls under Maureen's bracket. So she should go to the meeting as our representative, right? If other counselors or myself go to those meetings, they're not to be included in that. Is it,
Usually not.
is that how it was in the past? Or is there, do we want to change anything? We just need clarification. Because we don't want to ask every month. You know, if we have.
If it's a committee of council, then you don't pay it. If it's not a committee of council. then
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to. We just want it clarified, so everyone is in agreement that that's the way it's going to be. The designated person is going. Any of these subcommittees, you're on your own hook. Is that good with everyone?
Well,
Or might,
subcommittees.
well, like under Marine's umbrella,
Yeah.
she's in charge of a whole bunch of things,
Yeah.
loggers, Irish Gathering. So she will get paid. That'll be counted to her
Yeah.
for every meeting she attends, which is good.
And if she can't go, she can delegate.
Right. But say if you wanted to go also just to see a portion of what the meeting is,
Yeah.
you wouldn't get
No, I
paid.
go that under my
Right.
Yeah.
That's, I'm just getting that, drawing that line.
But there is going to be time to time where it isn't a council committee, but we're going to be asked to have a representative there, so it's still have to be approved by through council.
Right.
Something.
Right. Take, for example, tomorrow night. What does council think about tomorrow night? Should that be counted or should it not be?
That's all I read.
We're doing that as a part. Sorry.
You couldn't.
So like those are the things that we're learning.
We get an honorarium.
Yeah.
I-
Wanted that tomorrow, but why we should charge for it?
Yeah.
But I wanted to clarify this so everyone's on the same page and that there's no hiccups, that's all.
I'm just going for the free show.
Well, that's the only reason.
Look at it this way, if you're doing business for the township. It's business, and if you're doing like that tomorrow, it does not business.
Straight.
Social.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
No more questions.
I'm
have one more brief thing I want to say. As soon as you're done.
You said get to me.
So everyone's okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I want to express my condolences to my friend Harry on the recent consultation.
Thank you. Motion to enter into committee of the whole.
May I ask a quick question?
By all
So
means.
the survey, will you be using Cameron Montgomery's model for that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moved by Ted Brown, second by Maureen McMillan, be it resolved that council move into a closed meeting pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended for the following reasons: labor relations or employee negotiation. You can go.
I might have some.
Because if we're staying, you're staying, no. No, we're done.
We might have.
Wait a second.
Okay, Bill, you have less than 10 minutes.
Oh, no, we're not even in committee yet.
Oh.
All those in favor,
All those in favor?
and I have to
Carry.
get off you too.